Who wants to share their favorite thing about training at Middleburg Martial Arts? Miss Destiny.
The nunchucks.
Nunchucks. Awesome. Okay. What else? What else? What's your favorite thing about training at Middleburg Martial Arts? Noah?
You get the sword.
Learning the sword. So you guys who are in leadership get to do all these extra weapons, right? So for you guys, it's the extra weapons. All right, one more. Who else? I saw a couple other hands. Where'd they go? Maxwell, what's your favorite thing about training at Middleburg Martial Arts?
Is doing some.
Anyone muted? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Unmuted. Go ahead, Maxwell.
Learning about leader schools.
Learning about leadership?
Leader schools.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to make a couple quick announcements. So we did send out the belt testing times this weekend. Tigers and Dragons, we split the test in half. So we have half of you guys on Friday, half of you guys on Saturday. Friday is the 3:30 test. Saturday is the 12 p.m. test. And so we did send out a list of who is scheduled at each test. So if you have any questions about it, I'll be at the studio all day today. You can give me a call. For the GUP students, I tried to do the same thing. I tried to assign people to testing times, and then there were people that were pre-tested last minute and different things like that. So I sent that out, and then I immediately sent out another one saying, sorry, here's what we're going to do. And so every group, every belt level is assigned to a different time. So instead of looking for your name on a list, just look for your rank on that list. Same thing. If anyone has any questions about it at all, just go ahead and call the studio. I'm gonna go over those really fast with you guys. So we do have, I'll explain it too. So for the belt test, each belt test has about a 45-minute slot. I only think it's gonna be about 30 minutes for each group. So you're gonna hop on Zoom just like normal, and you're in your full uniform, and you're going to treat it very seriously. So even more serious and with more effort and more determination than a regular class. But just like you would in a belt test in the studio. It's going to be run like a normal class. So you guys are going to do a couple like basic motions, show off your stances, your kicks, all of that kind of stuff, and then review your curriculum in front of the judges. For those of you guys who are normally need to spar and board break and roll and fall, I'll explain that. So for sparring, if you have a sibling with you, you're going to spar your sibling or your family member. If you do not, you're going to spar in the air. So we're just going to look at some of the sparring techniques for this time, okay? For board breaking, we're going to have you demonstrate the technique that you need to do. For each belt rank has a different technique, or a couple different techniques that you can do. So we're going to have you demonstrate the technique that you can do, and then tell us something about board breaking. So tell us something that's really important about board breaking. If you're not sure, then you can go back and look at the videos that we've posted to YouTube in the club Masters in Leadership playlist. We've done a couple board breaking seminars, and we've talked about how important confidence is, or being perpendicular to the board, the holders, the grain, breaking with the grain of the wood, all of those kinds of things. So look on there, and I'll ask you to share one of those things. We are going to skip over for the red belts and above. You guys have to know how to roll and fall. We are going to skip over that on the test this time. So, okay. For our GUP students, your test is Saturday, May 2nd, which is this coming up Saturday. At 12:45, we have some of the beginners, and then at 1:30, we have some of the beginners. So the beginners that are at 12:45 are the solid white belts, half white, half orange belts, and orange belts with a white stripe on it. Okay. If you're a solid orange belt, you're at 1:30. And I know it's kind of weird the way that's split up, but it's based off of the size, the number of people we have in each of those groups. Okay, at 2:15 are all of our intermediate belts. So if you're currently a green belt with a white stripe, brown or brown with a white stripe, you're at 2:15. And then everyone who's half brown and red or above, you're at 3 p.m. So that's everybody else. Master Lappin, did you want to say anything about testing?
Yes. I just wanted to remind everybody that some people are not taking the Zoom classes real seriously, but if you are not right on with the testing, I'm kind of repeating what you said, you won't pass. So you need to be very serious like you would at a real test in our school. If there's fooling around, if there's talking to your parents, if there's whatever, if you're not fully dressed, you have to be fully dressed for this and ready to go. So make sure you're serious about this test, because you're getting your belt, you're earning your belt with the World Tong Soo Do organization. And that's a huge deal. So make sure you earn it and you deserve it, because usually we never have people fail our tests because we always pre-test them. But this time we've only had one person pre-test you, not a panel of people. And you will have us looking at you. You have to know the stuff and be serious. Okay?
Yeah. So,
I know you guys will do fine, and good luck.
yeah, I will say too, if you've already received your purple stripe, our instructors were all told to be even more strict than normal about pre-testing. We didn't push people who were close because of the virtual training. We wanted to make sure that the people that we said were, well, as always, if we tell you you're ready to test, we only want to tell you that if we really strongly feel like you're ready to test. So you should feel really confident in your abilities. If you have your purple stripe, you guys are ready. But just like normal, if you don't perform the curriculum, you will not pass the test. So just make sure that you are being serious and trying your very hardest. Does anyone have questions about the test really fast? And I see Mr. John Paul on here. Hello, John Paul. It's good to see you. We'll answer these questions, and then we'll get to hear from Mr. John Paul. Anyone have Brianna?
So I have like one of those like orange composite boards. Could I just use that for my break?
Yeah, if you have a rebreakable board on your own, or if you have your padded target, when we ask you to demonstrate the technique, if you don't have anything, you can just do it in the air or whatever. If you have a padded target, or you have a rebreakable board at home, or any of that kind of stuff, you can do the actual break at home, and we will watch you do that. Any other questions? That's a good one. I didn't even think about that. Or if you even want to use like a piece of paper, you can use that for your break for demonstrating it. Caleb?
Are you, for the test for breaking, are you actually going to be fake breaking the board, or like doing the break?
So that's kind of what I was just saying. So you can, if you have a padded target, or you have a paper, or you have a rebreakable board, you can actually do the break. If you do not have anything, you'll still do it, but you'll do it in the air. So you will just like practicing. Okay.
Okay. And how many breaks do I do? I'm doing it.
I don't want to tell you something wrong, but I think it's just 1 foot and 1 hand, but I will, I'll double check. I'll post the list to the Facebook group later, not earlier. I'll post it.
Okay.
Rachel, I'm thinking probably the way this is, one break will be enough, and we'll make it up next time.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Sounds good. Okay. Any other last questions? Last one, Luca.
Does Luca have to take the test online and write the paragraph?
No, ma'am. That's a good question. So normally we don't even send out that information to our Tigers and Dragons. Our GUP students need to do their written test, which is online, and you need to write your paragraph. That is due this Wednesday. And then email it to Miss Heather, the middleburgma@gmail.com, and she'll record it. Tigers and Dragons, you don't have to worry about it. You're good to go. If you have your testing time and you have your purple stripe, you're good to go for your test. Okay. All right. So I already talked a little bit about Mr. John Paul. He was one of my, what did we test for first and second together, John Paul?
I think we did.
I thought so.
It's
Okay.
been a while. Yeah.
It's definitely been a while. But he is a phenomenal martial artist, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about what he's doing now. So do you mind giving us a little overview about what you've been doing since you graduated high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to the University of Florida. I majored in astronomy and astrophysics. And then after I graduated, I joined the Marine Corps and did some basic infantry training in Quantico, Virginia for a little while. And then after that, I went to Arcata, Pensacola, where I live now. And I'm currently in flight school.
Awesome. Well, I want to take a second to thank you for coming on here and joining us. I really appreciate it. And I'm really glad you were able to work it out with your schedule. Master Lappin, did you want to say anything before I go into a couple questions for Mr. John Paul?
Yes, I want to just let people know how amazing John Paul is, and it's good to see you, JP.
I see.
But he is an amazing young man. When he trained with us, he set the example and he led. You met his sister and his brother already, and he is the leader of these guys. I mean, he was the big brother that they looked up to. And for those of you, he said he graduated University of Florida, and we talked about how hard it is even to get into University of Florida. Right now, you have to have like a 4.45 GPA even to get in to be considered. So he got into University of Florida, which is a big deal, and has done an amazing, amazing job with what he's done, not just academically, but you've done real well in tournaments and everything else. Do you want to maybe talk about some of your successes? And I know that's hard for you because you're so humble, but maybe some of the tournaments that you've been in and some of the awards you've won and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So some of the big things obviously were the regional 21 tournaments, going in there, managed to be fairly successful, particularly with forms and point sparring, and then also with the regional championships. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And even thinking back to a while ago when we did the Wizard of Oz demo, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That was way cool. Wow. Boy, that was a while ago.
It really was. Yeah. No, I have to attribute all that to basically it's just the tough training that we received at the time, kind of laid a foundation for, all right, well, in order to be successful in these tournaments, then you have to put in the hard work. And I heard earlier, Rachel, or Miss Lappin, and you, Master Lappin, talking about the earning your belt even online. That's true. That's so true. You still have to earn it. Nothing is ever given to you, and times like this, even it's very easy to become complacent. So I think that this is kind of overarching. I know I'm kind of going beyond the scope of your question, but it still pertains to that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you guys should listen carefully to what he's saying, because he's a very, very successful young man. Okay, Rachel, you can ask us questions now. And actually, Rachel is considered, she is Master Luton now. She actually got her master's. And I still call her Rachel because she's Rachel to me, but she is Master Luton. So yeah, we're really proud of her for that.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Okay, Master Luton.
All right. So, okay. So John Paul, my first question, how did your black belt training at Middleburg Martial Arts help you while you were in school?
Yeah. So, I just want to point out one of the big things, and everyone studies from the student manual or the gut manual, in the World Tungsten Association, right? So one of the big things is, and I just want to emphasize, is that the black belt thing, I have it pulled up right here. It says, we see it as not only the end of one stage, but more importantly, the beginning of the path which leads through the ranks of the higher black belts to true mastery. So to answer your question, that kind of lays the foundation, not only in martial arts, but, going beyond that. So a lot of times we think like, okay, well, I've learned this one thing, now it's time to go on to the next thing. Now you keep that, whatever you learned from before, you keep that in your toolbox so that you can resort back to it when you need to. But being able to recognize that early on kind of helps, like I said, for the future when you're going through and you're like, all right, well, what's the next thing? It's basically not, you're not done learning is what I'm trying to say. Even when you get your black belt, you're not done learning. There's always more to it.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. Okay. How did it help you outside of school? So once you were out of school, how did your black belt training and your leadership training at Middleburg Martial Arts help you?
So big thing there would be perseverance. That's one of the biggest things. I can't tell you how many times, even in my short Marine Corps career so far, where I failed things, adversity comes up, but it really is all about how you bounce back. And so I can, that's kind of, for example, let's say you're a student, you're at a regional tournament, or you're even at the world tournament or something like that, and you're going through and you're sparring, and then, you know, you lose that match. All right, well, how are you going to let it affect you? Because you can do one of two things. You can either sulk and be a sore loser, or you can strive to be better. And then on top of that, and I guess there's a third thing too, not only striving to do better, but helping others so that they don't make the same mistakes you did. So for example, if you are a Chodanbo, and then maybe you are watching one of the orange belts spar or something, and you notice that, hey, like, you know, he or she did something that led to them losing the match. Well, then it's up to you, because you have the experience, to be able to go to that orange belt and be like, hey, I noticed that, you know, this happened and this happened, but I bet you if you fixed it in this way, then you'll win next time. And those are certain things that, you know, I was able to learn then that I can apply now, so that when adversity does come, I'm not all like down about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really big for right now for everybody. And I know I've talked about this a million times, and I'm going to say it again, but right now, a lot of you guys, you know, are virtual schooling and doing your karate classes virtually and all that kind of stuff. And some of you guys are not ready to test this time. And I know all of you guys on here especially are not just going to quit and give up of your goal of black belt because you're not ready to test this time. Or if you don't do well on a quiz at school, it doesn't mean you're going to quit third grade or fourth grade or whatever you're doing. You're going to pick yourself back up, and you're going to learn from it, and you're going to try harder for the next belt test, or start studying more for your next quiz, or whatever you need to do. So yeah, that's huge.
Master Luton,
Yes.
can I just say something? When I heard John Paul talking, it reminded me, I've been listening to the audio version of Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires. It's a really good book. And one of the things that they said, that the traits that all these millionaires have in common, is the ability to bounce back. When the going gets rough, they don't let it crush them. They bounce back. They have that ability. And they don't look at failure as failure. They look at failure as feedback to get better. So exactly what JP was saying. And this is written up in books that have been studied by millions and millions of, they've studied very, very successful millionaires. And this is a trait they all had in common. So thank you for that feedback, JP.
Well, and we talked about that. Our last book that we read during Match Chat was What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And a big part of that, one big section, was talking about situational self-talk. And you can fail in a situation, you can have something really bad happen to you, but your attitude and the way you handle it is what's going to impact your success or your failures. So I think that's all really important. Okay, the next question. What is the most important thing that you benefited from your black belt leadership training?
Well, so one of the most important things, there's three big things, that kind of have a similar theme, that I can take away from overall martial arts experience, and particularly my black belt training. So one of the purposes of Tang Soo Do is strive to be better character through endurance and hard work. Like I said before, and like what Master Lappin was saying, as far as bouncing back, that's part of that endurance and hard work. You endure through the suck. So it's kind of, if you can let me say this. So in the Marine Corps, we say we strive through the suck, kind of sort of thing, stuff like that. Like you keep going through it, and you find, it's kind of weird, you find a lot of comfort in being uncomfortable. Because here's the thing, you know that during those times you are growing. And how many times you can think about in a class, especially like an advanced class, where, you know, you're doing some super hard workout, and then on top of that, we're going to do, in one class, you'll go through all your techniques, you go through your forms, and then you go through and you'll do workouts in between. And then at the very end of it, you're like, dang, I'm beat. So that's one thing you got to think about through going through that, as well as the endurance and hard work. No retreat in battle. And then that's one of the 5 codes and 7 tenets, as far as talking about perseverance. Yeah, those are the 3 big things, particularly coming from the black belt perspective. that were huge and laying a foundation.
Very nice. Yeah, and you see that like right now, the whole virtual thing, this whole quarantine thing, it gives you so many things to appreciate and be grateful for and recognize how well you're doing right now. So I like that. I like that saying. Okay. Then my last question for you. So we have about 55 families on here. Most of them, probably about 75% of them are in our leadership or our master's program, meaning they've committed to black belt and they're on black belt training. We do have some families on here that are new to our karate school, that maybe have not made the commitment to get to black belt yet, or who are considering that leadership training. So what would you say to those students?
I would say that the commitment to a black belt, obviously, first of all, take it seriously. It's a big commitment, but with that commitment comes so much growth. And like I said, that is something that can be extended beyond just your martial arts. And understand that Tang Soo Do, middle martial arts, just martial arts in general is not necessarily the end state, but your overall well-being, your health, your life, your leadership skills that you can take away from those skills that you're going to learn now early on are huge. And I can't necessarily think that I would be exactly where I am today if it were not for that foundation that was laid down early on. And you could think even from being even from when you're a white belt, and then all of the growth and everything that you learn throughout the raising up in the belts. So we got to think about that as well. It's more than just beyond just Middleburg martial arts. If that makes sense. I don't know. Does that make sense to you, Rachel?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I should say Master Luton, sorry.
It's okay. All right. So is there anything else? Our theme of the month this month is leadership. So we've been talking about leadership. Is there anything that you want to tell these guys? Any advice you want to give them about leadership? Anything you've learned in particular that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, I wrote a couple notes here. Never settle. And continue to strive for growth even through adversity. So like we mentioned before, when things get tough, keep going. You're going to learn from those experiences and those mistakes. And the most important part about those is you can help others. So you have to, first of all, persevere is the first step of that. The second step is to pass on what you've learned to others. And understand that leadership is not about you at all. It's about your subordinates, is about others. Okay, so we have a saying in the Marine Corps where the leaders eat last, and that basically means that your subordinates, they take the priority. So mission first, people always. If you keep that in mind, that's going to be a very, very great advantage to you throughout your whole entire life, really. And that could even be even when you're like doing a group project at school, or if you're doing a virtual project online, taking the lead, but making sure that you're not trying to make yourself look.
What are you doing?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And do you have a couple of minutes if our students have some questions for you? Do you have a minute to answer some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So who has a question for Mr. John Paul? I saw a hand a second ago. Where'd it go? All right, Caleb, what's your question?
I actually have two.
Okay.
How old were you when you got your black belt?
Let's see.
The entire House of Representatives and 1/3 of the Senate are on the ballot in November.
I think Master Luton,
Probably 12. I was 12.
12 or 13.
You guys were the same age. You got it together. Rachel, how old were you? 12?
12. Yeah. So 12
JP, you're a little older than her.
Maybe we're the same age.
You're both 27 right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you were 12 then.
12. It was 12. Yep.
All right. And Caleb, what's your other question?
My other question is, how old were you when you first started karate?
I was 4 years old when I first started karate.
All
Well,
right.
that's a commonality of a lot of the people that have been on here. The ones that started really young and stuck with it have been the ones that have been really super uber successful.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Noah, what is your question? Go ahead and unmute yourself, bud. And then Luca, I'll let you go next. Go ahead, Noah. You have to unmute yourself.
That when were you in Leaders Club or Masters?
So I'm going to answer that for him. I don't think we had our leadership or our master's club. They weren't called that, but we did have advanced levels of training. I think it was called Black Belt Club at the time.
Black Belt Club.
Mhm.
SJP Black Belt Club.
Yep.
And he was in that. He was one of the founding members of that. So he actually helped us start the Black Belt Club. Him and Master Luton and his brother and sister and actually a lot of the people that are going to be on board here were founders in that, because Jacob Rupar was there, Gwen was there, Casey was there. All of you guys like started at the same time when we started that Black Belt Club, I think, which is kind of cool.
Jarrett Manzi.
And who?
Jarrett Manzi.
Yep, Jarrett was on here Friday. Yeah, he's doing really well. So it's amazing that it's amazing how far we've gone from when we originally started that many years ago to now, because we're doing so much more than we gave even then. Like, look at what we're doing here, having leaders like you on here to teach other people and share ideas. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. Luca, what was your question, bud?
When did you earn your black belt?
12 years old.
All right, Mackenzie, what is your question?
What is your definition of leaders?
My definition of leadership or leaders. Wow, that's a great question. I would say, if I were just to say something off the top of my head, it would be to help others be the best version of themselves.
I like that. I like that thought. All right. Any other questions for Mr. John Paul? Any last questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay. All right. Well, then let's all go ahead and unmute ourselves and say, "Kamapsimnida." Thank you, John Paul.
Masimida.
All right. I am going to go ahead and mute everybody.
Goodbye.
But thank you again. Well, thank you again so much, John Paul, for coming on here. Master Lappin, is there anything else you would like to say to Mr. John Paul?
I would just like to thank him, JP. I hope everything is going well with you. You doing good, John Paul?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Good. And you're flying airplanes now, huh?
I am. I'm flying a trainer airplane right now, and I got about maybe 6 to 8 more months before I wing, and then I'll probably be flying attack helicopters. We'll see. I don't know which route I'm going yet, though.
Wow. Good for you. Well, we are very, very, very proud of you. So thank you for being here, and stay in touch and stop and visit us when we open up again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell Christina I said hi, and next time you guys are in town, we need to catch up. We definitely
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Take
All
care,
right.
JP.
Well, students,
Thank
down here, we're going to do our stars, but let's all wave goodbye to Mr. John Paul. Thank you so much. It was good to see you, JP.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, everybody else, if you have character building sheets, stars to earn, go ahead and hold those up. Hold up your stars, your character building sheets. Hopefully you guys got some done over the weekend. Okay, Connor, how many stars do you have to turn in?
I have 1 star.
star and it's the karate homework.
Good job, Connor. All right, Miss Emily. Emily, how many do you have?
I have 7, and I did character building sheet number 6.
Good. Do you have 7 total stars? Oh, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the holidays with 7 a whole week? I gotcha. Good job, Emily. Very good. Who else has some they need to turn in? Anybody else? Anybody else? Miss Amber, you have the same one?
I have 7
Good
and
job.
I
Good job, Miss Amber. Let's clap for her. Good job. Good job. All right, Miss Harley and Mr. Corbin, how many do you guys have? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
We have 1
Good. And which one is it?
on the karate homework.
Good job. Let's clap for them. Very good, you guys. Any other stars today? I think that is it. Landon, do you have some?
I have 4 stars.
Good job. Which ones are they?
Healthy eating,